Mark Rogers TV diving into the NFL playoffs with Steve Merrill of Pro Sports Info. NFC, AFC championship games this weekend. A few unlikely teams involved, especially maybe one in the AFC, Steve. And so we've got the Cinderella team in Jacksonville taking on New England. And of course, what is extremely interesting is that the most important player and the best player left standing, probably on either side, is Tom Brady, but he's got a questionable injury situation that really probably throws some people for a loop. But for the Sharps, I don't know how this is approached. So this is probably a good education for me.
Yeah, and the odds makers don't know as well. The line did drop a bit when this news came out yesterday on Thursday. It looks like he got injured on a handoff maybe in practice on Wednesday. He did not practice Thursday. He had a glove on both hands. Normally does not wear a glove on his throwing hand on his right hand. It looks like a right thumb injury. Nobody knows for sure what's going on, but I don't think it's going to affect him too much. He will play on Sunday, and the odds are saying that as well. This point spread was around 8.5 before the injury. It is now 7.5 in most spots, so it did drop a point. But if Tom Brady doesn't play, this line could maybe be a pick-em. It'd be very interesting if Jacksonville ended up as a road favorite in the AFC Championship game in New England. Who would have thought that would happen? That will only happen if Brady does not play. It looks like he will play Sunday. So the only question is how effective he'll be. I think he'll be okay, but it is a concern. What's more interesting to me, though, Mark, is that the over-under line did not move. It held steady at 46.5. So even though the point spread dropped a point from 8.5 to 7.5, the over-under total is held at 46.5, which once again shows that the odds makers and the bettors out there do not think that Brady's going to be missing much action on Sunday.
So, Steve, the 7 to 7.5 point drop to maybe a pick'em game certainly makes sense to me in regards to his value at quarterback. At the same time, I got to think that Brian Hoyer, who's a capable backup, who has been the starting quarterback, actually led a Cleveland Browns team, if anyone can believe this, to like a 6-3 start just a few seasons ago, especially with the Patriots playing at home in Jacksonville. Comparing Blake Bortles, Brian Hoyer, I don't know that there's a huge separation there, that New England should still be a favorite, especially with their playoff experience.
Right, and keep in mind that it's not necessarily what Brady is worth, it's what the difference is between Brady and the backup, as you mentioned. And we saw that with Green Bay earlier this season when Aaron Rodgers was out and Brett Hundley did not play well. That drop-off was worth anywhere from 7 to 10 points. A capable backup, it might only be worth 2 or 3 points. The big question, of course, is what would the line have been if Garoppolo was still in town? Had he not been traded to San Francisco a few months ago? You're talking about maybe only a 3-point adjustment then. But I think with Hoyer, it'd probably be a 6 or 7 point adjustment. Jumps out to me about Hoyer is his one playoff start back in 2015 with the Houston Texans. He was awful. He had a 0.4 touchdown interception ratio. They lost 30-0 in that game. However, he actually had a pretty good season overall, not only with the Texans, but as you mentioned in 2014 with the Browns. He has a career quarterback rating in the mid-80s. He has a positive touchdown interception ratio. So I'm not sure there'd be as much of a drop-off as everybody thinks. The big question, though, is Jacksonville. Can they do what they did against Pittsburgh? Can they force mistakes? Can they force turnovers? Roethlisberger had 5 interceptions in the regular season game. We talked about that last week. He turned the ball over again this past week. That's why Jacksonville won. It's hard to imagine Tom Brady, even if he's not fully healthy, making those type of mistakes. But that hand injury, if he's not gripping the ball well, that could come into play. It's a difficult spot overall for Jacksonville. It's their second straight road game in 2 weeks against a high-profile team. But they have the makings of a good underdog. They're a great defensive team. They run the ball well. Leonard Fournette is battling an ankle injury, but he's listed as probable as well. But that's another big injury we have to keep an eye on.
Steve, this is probably too general of a question to ask for such a specific situation here. But where a player or the player versus the backup difference, as you outlined, could be as much as a touchdown to 8 points, is this significant? Does the sharp money typically dive in early and say, we're going to bet that Brady plays and we're getting great value here because there's some uncertainty there. So we're going to dive in and get a really good point spread, taking the risk that obviously you jump in at -7 and it drops to a pick 'em with Brian Hoyer starting? Or is there typically more of a wait and see attitude for more certain news to come out?
The bottom line, whenever you're dealing with playing a game early, is you want to try to get the best numbers. So the only reason you play a game earlier in the week is because you think you're getting a better number than you'll get on game day. And it's extremely important in football because of key numbers. And obviously 7 is a very key number. In fact, NFL favorites win by exactly 7 points nearly 5% of the time. Minnesota-Philadelphia game is 3. They win by almost 10% of the time. Favorites win by 10% of the time in the NFL. So there really isn't a reason why you would not play Jacksonville right now if you like them, regardless of what happens with Brady. Because, yes, the line will probably be plus 8.5 or maybe plus 9 like it was earlier this week if he's fully healthy. But 8 is not a key number. 7 is. So if you can still get plus 7.5, which is available in most spots right now, it really doesn't make much sense why you wouldn't play Jacksonville now, because at worst the line goes 8.5. But yes, if something crazy happened and Brady does not end up starting Sunday, which I don't think that's going to happen, by the way, but if it does, then you're getting 7 points plus in line value. Now with New England, there are some 7s out there. You could start making a case for maybe playing the Patriots now as well at -7 or less, because most likely that line does not go any lower unless Brady misses the game.